What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Melissa.
And I'm your host, Matt. And today we're joined by a very special guest.
I'm your guest, Carolyn.
Carolyn is our sister, our older sister. And if you guys have been following our streams, you will know that Carolyn was joining us for one of those late night Lego Skywalker playthroughs. And we had a conversation with her and we were like, we gotta find a way to bring you on the show. And as it turns out, Carolyn has been recently finishing up the Clone Wars. This has been a 2-year journey, Carolyn? Like, to finish it off and on?
Yeah, something like that. I've taken some long breaks, but, the last season especially is going quickly with Obi-Wan coming up.
Yeah. So we thought a fun thing to do for the channel would to be get Carolyn's thoughts on the Clone Wars as someone finishing it for the first time and leading into the Kenobi series. So this will be part 1 of 2 of Clone Wars conversations with Carolyn Thomas.
It's going to be a two-parter.
With
a lot
that
of C-words there. Clone Wars conversations with Carolyn.
But before we get into the topic of Clone Wars, Carolyn, I would just like to introduce you a little bit to our followers. So I thought I would ask you 3 Star Wars questions if you're ready for that.
I am as ready as I'm going to be for that.
Perfect. So my first question for you is, who's your favorite Star Wars character?
My favorite this is going to be boring. Some of you guys, if you watched the live stream, you already got the sneak peek of this. My favorite Star Wars character is Obi-Wan. And I know that that's a very streamlined answer, but there's a reason for that. There is a reason for that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I will say that I have some favorite smaller Star Wars characters too, especially now getting into the Clone Wars. And I got to say, I am big obsessed with Cad Bane.
Yes.
And I hope we get to see some even more of him coming up. But
he's awesome.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. You passed the test. Check 1. You passed the test for the Cad Bane shout out. Second question, favorite Star Wars movie?
Again, going back to the live stream, Matt told me I was boring for this one too, but it's Empire Strikes Back. It's always going to be Empire Strikes Back. I think it's probably because it's some of my earliest memories. I always remember the original trilogy being on, and you really get to see the crux of that arc. So I love it. Close follow up is Revenge of the Sith.
Wow, she's
2 good choices, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's like, it's like I have a script here. If she picks Revenge of the Sith, she gets 12 points. So these are actually perfect
What
answers.
happens if I come on here and I say my favorite Star Wars movie was Solo?
We would excommunicate you.
No. We'd excommunicate
Actually, to
her
each
if
his
she
own.
said,
I mean, I have heard people. I don't know that I've ever talked to somebody who says it's their favorite Star Wars movie, because that's kind of psychotic if you think about it. But I have seen people who put it in their top 5 or top 3.
Top 5? Well, okay. See, here's the thing: is I don't have room for an opinion on this because I did not actually watch it.
What? No, Carolyn, that's not true. We started watching it.
We didn't
on Thanksgiving.
Watching it, though.
Yeah, but we watched like 3/4 of it.
Was it? I thought we only got through like the first quarter of it and then turned it off.
I don't know. I thought we got through a decent amount. So you have seen some of it at least.
I've seen some of it, but okay. Maybe I need to give it another shot.
No, it's fine.
I was gonna say Carolyn, we would have excommunicated you from this podcast if you said The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I think that would have been like, okay.
No, but you know what? The new generation of Star Wars fans, like Gen Z, wouldn't surprise me if that's their favorite movie, honestly. Which is fine. It's and you know what? I get it. Because if that's the first Star Wars movie you went to theaters in, or that's the first one you really resonated with, I mean, I understand your point of view there. I think the reason why we like the original trilogy so much is because that was all that was out when we were growing up.
Well, and I think we all kind of came back to like the prequels because it was the ones that came out when we were still like young enough to appreciate it. Because there is also always, I think that such a core of Star Wars is for kids, and it's like, yeah, whatever generation you're kind of born into, you're going to have more of a soft spot for.
I mean, no, it's a kid's movie. I mean, it's 100% for kids.
I guess.
Like, I think George Lucas has even said as much. Like, it's a kid's movie, which is why he like laughs when people get so mad or into the lore or like make such a big deal about it. He's like, you're getting mad over a kid's movie, which fair enough.
Fair enough.
There's definitely some adult themes in there as well with Revenge of the Sith and whatnot.
For sure. But Carolyn, going back to childhood here for a brief second, but what's your earliest memory of Star Wars?
so it's tough for me to exactly like pinpoint one, just because I mean, as you guys know, we grew up in a Star Wars house. We grew up always watching the movies and knowing everything. But one thing that will always stick with me, young prepubescent Carolyn, will be Leia telling Han that she loves him, and Han just callously saying, "I know." And I gotta say, like, Han Solo will always have a special place in my heart for a lot of reasons, but I don't know. He might be responsible for me sticking around a little too long with some emotionally unavailable men.
You know what's even better is that Harrison Ford completely improvised that.
Yeah, I know. Well, and to understand that, you just got to see Harrison Ford and all of the other movies around that time. Indiana Jones, Blade Runner, like, he's got a theme going with that.
It's true. You're totally valid.
What was the original line he was supposed to say?
I love you too, I think. I think it was legit just I love you too. And then Harrison was like, no, he would say I know. And George was like, okay, well, I guess we're keeping that.
It's a good move. It's a bold move, but
it was a bold move.
But you know what? Necessary.
So, Carolyn, are you ready to talk some Clone Wars?
I think I am. And again, I got to preface this by saying, given the fact that it took me over 2 years to finish the entire thing from start to finish, I might have some gaps, but I'm super excited to talk about it.
Cool. So, if I remember this correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you and I were on the phone, and I told you one night to go watch a random obscure episode of the Clone Wars. It's like,
yes, I don't remember what episode it was. But...
I do.
Which one was it?
Do you remember the episode, and Matt, maybe you'll remember this one too, but the episode where Obi-Wan and Quinlan Vos work together to hunt down Zero the Hutt, and Cad Bane is also trying to hunt down Zero the Hutt?
Yes.
It is such a weird, trippy episode, especially for a first-timer, but you texted me the morning after, and you were like, I don't know what the hell that was, but I loved it.
It was a fever dream, and I remember enjoying it and being like, what have you sent me?
Do you remember that episode, Matt?
I vaguely do, yeah.
Like the little baby hut. The little baby weird.
No. It doesn't have Stinky in it or whatever that hut's called.
Wait, I thought it was Stinky.
No. Zero the Hutt. The one that's like, oh my stars. Like he's big and purple.
Yes, I remember that now.
I do vaguely remember that, but why are they both like they're both trying to? Because he got kidnapped or something, right?
No, he was arrested by the Jedi because he tried to have Padme assassinated in like the Clone Wars movie, and so that was like a plot thread.
Little Stinky does get abducted though. Little Stinky, whatever the Hutt's name is. Can we look up what the Hutt's actual name is?
I think it's Stinky.
Stinky the Hutt.
Stinky the Hutt.
Or maybe that's something that Anakin and Ahsoka called. I don't know.
Stinky the Hutt. It's Rada the Hutt.
Rada. Okay,
Rada,
cool.
Gotcha.
Now look up Zero.
That's the same thing as Stinky, right?
Carolyn, look up Zero just for reference.
Zero the Hutt. Oh yeah, I forgot about this thing.
So that's
he conspires with Dooku.
Yeah, so he's working with Dooku and Cad Bane. I think, God, I don't remember. I'm blanking on the spot, guys, because I get nervous and I can't think of certain episode plot points. But Cad Bane's also looking for Zero. But Quinlan Vos is working with Obi-Wan to find him. But it's just such a weird introductory episode for a first-timer.
And if I recall, you sent me that, and I ended up binging like 6 or 7 episodes that night. So clearly I was like, give me more of whatever this is. Put it in my veins.
Right. So prior to Clone Wars, did you have any knowledge of it, or like did you have?
I knew that you liked it, and that was about it. And then like I had kind of seen it as like you see it, it's like a cartoon, and it's like the animation style is not super realistic. It's like it's a little weird. Like it takes some getting used to. And so I didn't realize that. I thought it was just kind of a spinoff for kids, which I guess it is. In fairness, going back to our earlier conversation, but I didn't realize like the richness, in addition to weird episodes like the one we just talked about, the richness and like the depth that it gives to that era in the Clone Wars universe is just unmatched. It's crazy. Like the relationship building between, I mean, Obi-Wan and Anakin and Padme and Obi-Wan and Satine, like screw me up with that.
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable how much. But then you also have weird episodes. Like, I texted Melissa the other night when I got to Jar Jar's weird arc with that queen. Was it Queen Julia? Where you find out that he's had a love interest the entire time, and he's been doing the dirty with this queen, and you're just like, what is this? Like, so
Jar Jar love story.
the Jar Jar love story arc freaked me out so much. And it was like a fever dream. I couldn't stop looking at it.
Yeah, there's some really weird episodes in Clone Wars where you're like, what am I watching?
Yes. And so you'll
This is supposed to be Star Wars. This is such a strange plot.
The Jar Jar, I gotta tell you, I don't think I've watched that since it first came out back in 2013 after they canceled the show and they were like, oh, here are the episodes that were finished but we never got to release. I don't think I've watched that arc.
I don't think I'll ever watch it again.
Release, which, by the way, the
necessary.
one thing that made it weirder is the fact that they felt the need to include Mace Windu.
You know what? Though I would be here for that. I would be here for a spinoff of Mace and Jar Jar going on their weird adventures and just doing weird things together, and it'd be like Misa Boston.
Yeah. I mean,
oh my god, I'm gonna cry. Oh my god.
I mean, dude, Jar Jar is such a weird character in those, but also, you know what is Mace Windu is kind of a jerk pants in all of Clone Wars. Like I know he's supposed to be like a solemn, stern guy in the the prequels and all that, and that he's kind of one of the reasons why you're supposed to empathize with Anakin more is because Mace Windu. But like in the Clone Wars, he's just like kind of unnecessarily a jerk all the time.
He's very stern.
Yeah,
he's very stern, and
takes himself so seriously.
Yeah, and I think that the way that they granted Samuel L. Jackson's face is kind of like this anyway, but I think the way they animated him like really enhanced some of those features, like the very strong brow and like the downturned face. And I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking that, but
well, they took everybody's looks and just totally over exaggerated. I mean, like look at Dooku and look at Palpatine.
It's true. I mean, it's basically a caricature artist if you want to see yourself in the Clone Wars. But.
There's a really great meme, and somebody was like, I don't know what Ian McDiarmid did to offend the Clone Wars animators, and then there's like a side by side of Ian McDiarmid and then his Clone Wars version, and his nose is huge,
so big.
Also, I just found out, and I don't know when they made this swap. Tim Curry.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Yes.
So
yes,
I didn't.
Dude,
I thought his voice sounded familiar, and I don't know when they swapped him out with whoever the other voice actor was. Palpatine.
Ian Abercrombie, I think is his name. I might be botching that.
Let me look it up because you're right. Because they're both really good. But yeah, they do a little switcheroo on you there.
Yeah, and I was sitting there watching the episodes, and I was just like, I know that voice.
It's Ian.
That's Long John Silver from Muppet Treasure Island.
Yeah, no, honestly, there is. I think it's Ian something, but it's because he died, right?
Yes, he died he died shortly after recording his last lines in season 5, and so they brought Tim Curry in. But there is something I want to show you guys. I want to see if I can pull it up because you can tell they're still dispersing between Tim Curry and then Ian Abercrombie in season 6.
So they're using some of the old like vocal footage.
Right, but there's a really prominent moment, I think, in season 5 where it's Ian Abercrombie talking as Palpatine, but then all of a sudden this voice interjects that's clearly Tim Curry's that says like an entirely separate line that's meant to be Palpatine, but it's so jarring that you're like, who's this random guy speaking in the middle of the scene? I have to find this. It messes me up every single time I watch the episode. But
well, always happy to have a surprise appearance from our Lord and Savior Tim Curry.
Well, I think there's a couple pretty big actors that make some appearances, and like people that are surprising, like Tim Curry's big name. I didn't even know he was still doing stuff either. So when I found that out initially, I'm like, oh wow, good for him. That's great.
Yeah, in fairness, I think he's deteriorated quite a bit since
his stroke.
It's unfortunate. Is
Tim
that
Curry had
actually
a
Liam
stroke?
Neeson that does Qui-Gon?
Yep.
yes.
Which is another cool thing too. Like you get the OG Liam Neeson. Then Jon Favreau's in it too. Obviously, he's pre-Vizsla.
Pre-Vizsla.
That's actually where he got like his passion. Like that's why he started pursuing Star Wars more. Because that's how he got in touch with Dave Filoni, and they started. So thank God he was in it.
Yeah, thank God. That's awesome.
But he's always been a big Star Wars guy. But I think he got into it, started voicing it, and then just wanted a bigger part of it. So I'm very happy that.
Oh, that's so cool. I love stories
and then,
like that.
like Mark Hamill's in it too. He's Darth Bane for a minute in the
How did I
Yoda
miss
Visions
all of
one
this?
where he goes to like that Sith temple and sees Darth Bane.
I just finished that episode.
Yeah, that's Mark Hamill
And he
as
goes to
Darth Bane.
Dagobah and all of the he gets his own vision in the same place that Luke goes in. Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
Yep. Exactly.
So I found the clip with Ian Abercrombie switching from him to Tim Curry. So I'm going to share that screen. And this is kind of jarring, but it makes me laugh every single time I watch it. And to give you guys a frame of reference, he goes, Ian Abercrombie is talking and he's saying some dialogue as Palpatine. I don't remember the exact dialogue, but it's like, let him play with the rabble, because they're talking about Maul. And then halfway through after that dialogue, Tim Curry's voice interjects and he goes, they're just petty crooks. But it's so
Obvious.
it's so obvious. I don't even know why they felt the need to include it. So just give me a second.
Yeah, but Carolyn, also the original voice actor, Melissa was telling me the original voice actor for Shmi Skywalker comes back and does her thing. David Tennant is in it too. I forget who he plays.
David Tennant
I
is
had
the
no
droid
idea.
Yes.
in the Youngling arc.
And then doesn't Ahmed Best come back? Doesn't he do Jar Jar too?
Yes, in the later seasons.
Right. So I mean, you're getting a lot of like.
Yeah, I had no idea. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
look up some of this stuff.
Yeah, and I think even Anthony Daniels does some of the 3PO stuff too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think
Anthony
so.
Daniels, is he? Oh, here we go.
Are we seeing this?
Yeah.
Yeah, this looks like a video game we're about to play.
It does.
Maul was trying to build an army of pirates.
So let him. Let him play with the rabble.
They're just petty crooks.
What? Like, listen.
Pirates.
So let him. Let him play with the rabble.
They're just petty crooks.
That's still not necessary to put that in there.
No, they didn't need to put that in there at all. And it's so obvious, just not Ian Abercrombie.
Yeah, but by the way, fun fact about Ian Abercrombie, Carolyn, you'll appreciate this. That's Mr. Pitt from Seinfeld.
What?
Yeah, Ian
What?
Abercrombie, that's Mr. Pitt.
Oh my god, I had no idea.
Oh, that's weird. I did
Yeah.
not know that.
Oh my
So
God,
sad,
rest
R.I.P.
in
to a
peace,
legend.
Mr. Pitt, yeah.
Such a
geez.
good character. Doesn't want super elastic socks because they cut off circulation. Next stop, Pottersville. Next stop, Pottersville. Next stop, Pottersville. Loving Woody Woodpecker. Some great references.
There's such that makes me sad, actually. I mean, sad that he was the chancellor who died, but even sadder that it's Mr. Pitt who died. That just
Yeah.
petty crooks.
But I had really hoped you would get my socks today.
No, but it's so jarring. It's so jarring, and they didn't need to include it. But every time I rewatch that arc, I start laughing like crazy after that scene because I'm like, you didn't need to do this.
Yeah,
Now
they
I
could have
felt
just left
me.
that out or just not done that.
They didn't even need the line of
It's not a-
dialogue.
It's not a crucial piece of dialogue at all. That
No.
really is.
So, Carolyn, what's been your favorite arc up until this point? I know we talked about like a little bit about like some of the weird ones,
Yes.
but is there one where you were like, "Oh, I really, really liked this"?
I can't stop with anything involving Obi-Wan and Satine. Just that whole thing. I'm such a sucker for that romantic love lost, heartbreaking. He's making the decision to, be true to the order, whatever. And she's also like, I don't think she really can indulge it either because, of her responsibility to Mandalore. And they're just, I don't know, just.
It adds a whole nother layer to Obi-Wan, which I think is really
It
cool.
helps you contrast Obi-Wan with Anakin and like the
Yep.
decisions that they made differently and how I don't know. You're
why
totally
Obi-Wan
right.
lets it slide with him and Padme. And
Exactly.
all that stuff.
Exactly. And I think I'm gonna try to because I'm gonna get through the last 4 episodes or the last 5 episodes of Clone Wars in the next couple days. I'm gonna try to rewatch some of the Obi-Wan Satine episodes before Obi-Wan because it's just like it
Well,
adds so
the
much
last
depth to it.
4 episodes of Clone Wars, emotional damage. Last episode is just what a
Ooh.
great last scene.
Did I preface this? I don't know if I prefaced this episode, but no, Carolyn has not seen the last 4 episodes,
yeah.
guys. So do not comment or
No
spoil
spoilers.
things if she
No
wants
spoilers.
to read comments. But Carolyn has not seen the last 5 episodes, but do not spoil the last 4 because they're some of the best
probably-
Star Wars.
I probably will just not look at comments because I'm sure somebody out there is gonna hear that and just be like, "Whoa." I'm gonna read everything in there.
No, but the
yeah,
whole
no, I haven't seen them.
the whole Obi-Wan and Satine thing, I don't know if you saw this, Matt, but the Disney UK account posted necessary Star Wars watching before Kenobi, and all the Satine and Obi-Wan episodes were on that list.
I saw that and I was so excited.
And I was like, Okay.
They are definitely hinting at something there.
I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm going to lose my mind.
How did you feel? How did you feel about the arc on Mandalore when Obi-Wan goes back to get her?
And are we putting spoilers on here? I mean, I guess I already spoiled Jar Jar's love interest.
It doesn't matter,
I
Carolyn.
mean, I think everyone who's watching our channel has watched Clone Wars. If you haven't, spoiler alert. But
Spoiler
and also
alert,
go
spoiler
watch
alert,
it.
spoiler alert.
But like this is your spoiler alert. So Carolyn, speak freely.
When
Speak freely.
she dies, I was so sad.
That's a brutal.
It's brutal. It's
death,
awful.
by the way.
Brutal. It's
It's
so
Yeah,
violent.
that's like one of those.
It's
That's one of those times. Again, this show's kind of an enigma because you're watching it and you're like, "Who is this for?" Because I don't want my kids watching that.
Yes, you're like, is this for little kids with like weird aliens, or is this for like adults? Because that's a very adult theme. And then
Yeah.
like everything with Maul
Or like
coming
any of
back.
that, any of the stuff when Maul's ruling Mandalore, how he gets to
Yeah.
rule Mandalore, where he fights Pre Vizsla and
Yeah.
then chops his head off,
Yep.
and you're like, "Oop, he's dead." Okay,
It's a lot.
okay,
Yes.
brutal.
That whole arc in general was just like, messed me up.
And then like
yeah.
the Mortis arc too is like, hey, that's complex and
That's really
philosophical,
complex.
and like, the foreshadowing and the struggles you see Anakin going through. It's beautifully done. Like the animation is just incredible,
Yeah.
and you're like,
But it's very
if I was a kid, I would think this is boring and dumb. But like watching it now, I'm like, this is awesome. Like what a cool level and layer to these characters.
yeah. I mean, you bring up a really good point with the who is this for, because I don't know. Because you're right. There's very
Totally.
adult themes that run throughout certain arcs, and then there's other really like weird, trippy arcs that have nothing to do with anything else and just like are for like a cute little alien. But
Yeah,
that whole, I don't even know what the name of that arc is, with Maul rising back up and Obi-Wan going back to Mandalore with Satine. Just ugh.
yeah. And then you'll have like an episode after like a really intense arc that's like the droids are hanging out. And you're like, okay, skip this one. I don't need this. Or it'll be like, hey, we're on a water planet for 3 episodes, and you're like, no. Or Jar
I'm good.
Jar has a love affair. You're like, whoops. We could have done without that
I did not need to know
episode.
about that. I did not need to know about that episode.
But the stories, the irony of that is that those stories expand the universe in really cool ways. Even if they're not always like
do.
super exciting, they make the universe that much more interesting. And you go, okay, like instead of the huddled little group that is Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Captain Rex, here's what's going on in the larger galaxy and the issues with the Clone Wars. So I appreciate like the expansiveness that they did with those episodes, regardless of how great or meaningless they seemed at the time.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I told Matt to skip the droid arc on his first watch. I was like, I don't think you would enjoy this. You don't need to watch it.
Yeah, in some ways, I also think that like the juxtaposition of something ridiculous with something very poignant is nice, but I don't know. Like another arc I really enjoyed. I really liked. Again, I don't know what you would. Ahsoka's decision to leave the Order after she gets like framed for that whole thing. That also
those
resonated a lot.
Those
Well,
episodes.
it completes the whole like watching. Which, by the way, Karen, once you're done with Clone Wars, you have to watch Revenge of the Sith right afterwards, because all little things like that make the Revenge of the Sith infinitely more interesting. And you'll see in these final couple episodes, like it kind of directly connects with Revenge of the Sith. I mean, it doesn't kind of. It directly connects with Revenge of the Sith.
Kind of, sort of.
So it kind of like fills in those gaps from the beginning of the Clone Wars to now, and then there's like you just understand Anakin's struggle more, and his it makes the Jedi less sympathetic. And I think that's something that the Clone Wars does a good job of, which George Lucas, and now that I'm watching, you watch Revenge of the Sith afterwards, and you're like, oh, I totally get what George Lucas was trying to go for. I don't think it hit on all the marks necessarily, but I still think it's a very good movie. But like Clone Wars really does fill in a lot of like gaps and helps complete it in a more like obvious way, where it just makes like that whole schism so much more impactful.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard it like just makes it makes it a much more rich experience.
Totally.
They do a lot of stuff too in the finale, which I'm not going to spoil. We'll go into it in part 2, but in the finale, they tie in a lot of like the musical cues to make you connect certain scenes in Revenge of the Sith with what's going on in the finale. So
I love
you'll
that.
know what's happening in Revenge of the Sith because of the musical cues that they're using.
I am such a sucker for people tying in musical cues to different things. I love that so much.
Yeah, it's great.
It's fantastic.
Big
You will love the finale. I think it's some of the best Star Wars maybe ever. But I need to shut up because I feel like I'm going to spoil things for you. But I do want to ask, because I've often asked Matt about this, but what was the journey like for Ahsoka for you so far? So, like, getting to where she starts off and to where she is now, how do you feel about that character?
So, like many people, I thought she was super annoying at first. And it was just like, who is this stupid little orange twerp? And I don't know. I had no idea how important she was going to become. And so I'm just like, what are they shoehorning some girl in here just to pander to the, I don't know. I was really annoyed with her. In fairness, you told me to skip some of the first season and then go back and watch it later. I did not do that.
You didn't?
No, I just watched it all the way through. So she was annoying, but my understanding is that that's a pretty common reaction to her in the beginning. But like, I don't know, she grows on you, and like Anakin calling her Snips, and like their growing relationship and like having each other's backs, and like I don't know, she grows on you. I don't think there was ever a specific moment that I was just like, ah, yes, queen. But I don't know how they took a character that everybody found universally annoying in the beginning of it and made her just like so impactful by the end. But when like she decides she's not coming back to the Order after they're like apologizing, you're just like, what? That's stupid.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like,
yeah, I mean, it makes you more sympathetic towards Anakin too. Where it's
so
like,
much more sympathetic
the
towards
Jedi Order is like pretty flawed. They're doing things wrong. They're getting a little arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
They think they're the authority on everything.
Yeah.
They're not just keepers of the peace anymore. They're a little bit more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally agree. I think like she's very important to both Anakin's story, but also like pretty much all the events.
The story of the Jedi. Well, the story of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And like, I remember what, and that's why I think she's so crucial, is because she gives you kind of like another dimension on exactly what you were talking about, Matt, with the story of the Jedi, and they're not what they've been made out to be the whole time. And I even remember feeling some confusion when the prequels came out, being like, oh wait, so I mean, because Anakin, like, he had reason to go, right? Because he's got to save Padme and whatnot. It's not solely because he's like, I hate the Jedi, but you realize that there's more nuance to the decision after watching the Clone Wars, even though I haven't even gotten to the final 4 episodes yet. The depth that goes into his eventual decision to turn to the dark side is just like, I don't know, it's more revealed. It's like taking a flashlight and shining it into the ocean. You can kind of like see things.
Yeah, it's a perfect storm. You're like, all these events are a perfect storm that's been building up for years.
I mean, yeah, essentially to all of that. I mean, you guys, it's like interesting to sit back because for our listeners, I spent a lot of time trying to convince members of our family to watch Clone Wars because for a while I was like the only person who really got into it and I was crazy about it.
True.
And so I was annoying Matt and Carolyn into watching it. And so it's kind of surreal for me because like 10 years ago when I was, watching the show in high school, I think I would have freaked out at the prospect of being like, oh, Carolyn and Matt are watching this. Oh, this is so cool.
And
so
we're all going to get on a podcast to talk about it.
Yes, and we're going to get on a podcast and talk about it. And so I just think that's so amazing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I started watching it 2019, end of 2019, beginning of 2020 is when like I started it. And then I was slowly watching it, and then COVID hit, and it was like, all right, I'm kicking this into overdrive because there's nothing else to do. So I like binged a ton of it, and then got to watch the finale when it came out or whatever. That was 2020, right?
Yes, that was 2 years ago this month.
Okay,
yeah, and then I would call Melissa about it, and actually that's how this show got started. Is I would call Melissa about that and Mandalorian every week after it was done, and we'd just like talk about it. And I'm like, wait a minute, we should just record ourselves doing this. So that's actually kind of how the show was born, was Melissa convincing me to watch Clone Wars because it added like more stuff to talk about. It just more depth to the characters, so that it makes you go back and want to rewatch the movies and go, oh, like this makes this make more sense, or it makes it more interesting, and it adds more depth to the character, and then just adds more to talk about. So it kind of revitalized my interest in stars. I mean, I've always been a huge Star Wars fan, but it was also that, and then Mandalorian season 2 was like some of the best TV I've ever watched.
So
Like it was
good.
watching it week over week was just such a treat. It's one of the first TV shows, probably since Westworld, that I couldn't wait for the next week.
Yeah.
Westworld season 1, by the way. I haven't watched the new seasons for people wondering. And then also playing Battlefront. I played Battlefront every day with one of my best friends from home during COVID because there was literally nothing else to do. And so we'd play that, and then we'd start talking Star Wars. And I'm like, wait, I love Star Wars. We should make a show about this. So that's a little history lesson on kind of how the show got started for everyone wondering.
It was all because of Clone Wars. And that's kind of funny because
Well, not all. It was Mandalorian too.
Mandalorian too. It is kind of funny though what you just said about like Mando, because most of the content coming out now related to Star Wars is connecting back very heavily to Clone Wars.
Oh,
And
for sure.
the best example of that being like Rosario Dawson getting cast as Ahsoka, and then we get freaking Bo-Katan, who appeared in Mandalorian season 2, and I did not expect that. And so it was just like they were throwing these punches left and right. You're like, whoa, what's going
Yeah,
on?
and if you're uninitiated to Clone Wars, it didn't have the same effect to you.
Exactly.
Which, fine. I mean, it's still they're still cool characters, but it had such a deeper impact. Like when I saw Bo-Katan in Mandalorian, I'm like, oh my God. Like this is a whole, and when I saw Ahsoka actually, especially, that's when I was like, holy shit, this is a whole new doorway that just opened up for Star Wars. They're acknowledging Clone Wars stuff, and they're doing it for the right reasons. They're getting fans engaged and excited about this in the right way. And that's when I was like, okay. I was really like discouraged with the current state of Star Wars up until like Mandalorian season 1. I was even kind of lukewarm on, and Baby Yoda's amazing, but it was like they need to iron out the kinks. Like there's some awkward beats and some awkward moments there, and some of the plots they're good, but they're just not 100% there yet, which is natural for any first season of a TV show. Mm-hmm. And obviously the sequels and Han Solo were not my favorite. But like Mandalorian season 2, and you see Ahsoka, and then you see Bo-Katan, and you're like, and then Luke Skywalker. That's when I'm like, okay, all right, all right. Here's what should have happened. Here's the feeling I should have got, 10 years ago when Force Awakens was coming out. Which, by the way, is that crazy that it came out, 2012?
No. It was
That
like
is
2015. It's like 8 years, I think.
Well, I mean the preview for it, like that.
Oh, the
when we
preview,
first
yeah.
when we first saw like the teaser and stuff. I remember the excitement there, like when that first trailer for Force Awakens is one of the best trailers of all time. It's amazing.
I agree.
The movie didn't quite live up to the hype, but it's still a halfway decent movie. I think it's not as bad as the other sequels.
No, it's definitely not as bad as the other sequels.
But like, it just didn't. It didn't really. There was something missing when I left the theater that day. And on that finale, which our reaction video of watching Luke Skywalker and finale of Mandalorian is on our page here somewhere. But that was like, oh my God. Like it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's like one of the best moments in any media I've ever consumed.
It's going to be hard to beat that, I feel like. That might be the greatest. I don't know how they would ever top that, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, that's very hard to top. I mean, I wish we had our show back then, because I mean, I would have flipped my reaction video. I don't like if I just did one by myself. I mean, the fact we were with our family was definitely cool, but like I knew there was going to be something crazy, and I knew the right decision was to be Luke. I was like, to any Star Wars fan, this is the correct decision. I don't know if they're going to do it because I've lost all faith in the franchise.
Yeah, you don't know, but you like hope and you like want it to be that.
Yeah, and then the X-Wing flies by, and I'm like, holy shit. I am in on the next Star Wars stuff now because you guys did the right thing. It wasn't just about the money to them now. It was like, because the sequels were just like too many fingers in the pie, and it's so anticipated. It's a massive studio, but with a TV show, you got less people involved. You got passionate people involved, Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, and who care deeply about story and storytelling, and they absolutely knocked it out of the park.
And somehow that never leaked.
Yeah, I don't know how.
Which is a miracle.
Was Filoni involved in the sequels at all?
No.
I was going to say, there's your differentiating factor.
No, 100%. That's 100%.
That's true.
Differentiating factor. I mean, he's George Lucas's little protege.
Yeah.
And he's a dork who cares about the story, which is important.
And
like he knows all the lore behind it. So
He
I
also
actually saw a good rant from Freddie Prinze Jr., who also is not in Clone Wars, but he's in Rebels.
and he played young.
I don't know if you know the
Kanan in
rant I'm
Bad
talking
Batch.
about.
I know the
Melissa.
rate you're talking about. I think
I do know what you're
Is it
talking
the one
about.
where
It's a very, very. He talks about Dave Filoni and George Lucas there a little bit. That's why I'm thinking of it. But his rant about what Star Wars is actually about and the lore behind it, and like why fans get mad for the wrong reasons about the wrong stuff, and they don't know what the story actually is. It's a very good rant, and like it's good to listen to because it does remind you of like, oh yeah, that does make way more sense in terms
Is
of like
this
the
the one-
overarching Star Wars
is this
story.
the one where he's talking about like Star Wars being for kids and then being like, I learned about the Force from Dave Filoni, who learned about the Force from George Lucas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who
okay.
talks about like the whole thing is
Yeah.
Anakin was supposed to bring balance to the Force, which he did. There was too many Jedi, right? He brought back balance to the Force in the opposite way. And then the Emperor needs to use Anakin on his side to contain that power and maintain that balance of the Force, to maintain his own power. And then Luke Skywalker comes around. The Force automatically balances itself out no matter what. There's really nothing you can do. It's always going to balance out. Luke is born. He's meant to become this hero, and he brings balance again in the opposite direction. So it's like, I'm explaining it terribly, but that's the overall gist of it.
Yeah, and you can tell how much Dave respects George Lucas in the sense where it's like he takes very seriously like what he passes down. I've watched a lot of interviews with like the cast members, and they'll be like, before we start recording an episode, Dave will just come in and be like, okay, here's what's happening. Here are these concepts. He still tries to make it fun for the voice actors and what they're doing, because they don't want to be spoiled, obviously. Like, they didn't even know certain plot points in Star Wars because Dave left it out, but he'll come in and he'll thoroughly explain, this is what this concept is. These are the Mortis gods. Another great example of somebody knowing their lore is Sam Witwer, who plays Darth Maul. That guy, you need to listen to his rants on Star Wars because he gets it. Like, he fundamentally understands what Dave and George are going for. You should watch his rant on Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul on Tatooine. This is from Rebels, Carolyn.
Okay.
I'll send you that clip. But Obi-Wan and Maul fight, and Sam Witwer breaks it down. And he explains, like, shot by shot, what it means and the significance of Obi-Wan's choices in that scene. And you're like, it just makes you feel better because you're like, okay, now this shows me that they're in the right hands. They understand Star Wars. The people who are in charge of them understand Star Wars. So it's interesting to see like how that gets passed down and that knowledge and how seriously they take it, because they know how important it is, you know, to the fans, but to the overall franchise, which is super, super cool.
I mean, with that being said, I have to jump out here, unfortunately. But great talking to you guys. And I'll leave you guys to it. You guys can continue your sisterly discussion.
Good. We can talk bad about you when you're gone.
Yeah. Don't everyone monitor. By the way, I'm going to be able to see this, so you better not say anything bad about me. Or I will sue you. How'd you like that?
I'm taking over for the podcast.
You will be excommunicated from the podcast.
Well, Carolyn will be out in LA soon, so maybe we'll have her on the show again when that happens. But,
IRL. Be on the show IRL.
I will see you guys next time. Enjoy the rest of the show with these two wonderful people, and I'll see you when I am at Star Wars Celebration.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's true. We'll do an episode prior to that. So you guys will have one last convo with Matt before he hypes it up at Star Wars Celebration without me. He doesn't care.
I'll see you guys later.
See ya.
Bye.
Well, that was nice.
It was really nice. I'm glad
That was nice of him to jump in.
Well, yeah,
But-
I feel like this is a good warm-up podcast episode for the two-parter. Part 2.
Yeah, the part 2 is going to be great. I'm so ready to watch you be emotionally destroyed because the last 4 parts, Carolyn, are everything I wanted and I didn't know I wanted it. So it's
I'm
like you get
excited.
in. I had to one of my biggest regrets, dude, is that I didn't record my reaction when I watched it, because this was back in 2020 before we were even talking about the podcast. But like, I had moments when I was watching the last 4 episodes where I paused it and I had to be like, I can't believe they're doing this.
Should I record segments of my reaction?
Yeah, no, dude, if you want to, that'd be great. I'm sure our followers would love to see that.
See me cry like a little baby.
Yeah, I cried for like a week after the finale.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's gonna be an emotional one.
It'll
But
be heavy. It'll be very heavy. But I do want to ask you real quick because I didn't have
yeah,
a chance to ask with Matt because he gets on his tangents and I love them.
they're great tangents. Matt,
They're
when you watch
great
this later, we
tangents.
love your tangents.
We do. We love your tangents. But I did want to ask you, other than the inclusion of like Ahsoka to the show, we also get new characters like Cad Bane and Ventress and like Captain Rex. And one of my big questions for you is like, what do you think of like the development given to the clones as characters?
Yeah.
And do you enjoy them? Like, do you have a favorite clone? What about Captain Rex? Like, what are your just general thoughts on that?
I love the clones. I do. I think it's really cool that was the direction they chose to go with this because, I mean, I think otherwise you would have kind of such a large narrative empty space almost because you have all of these, I mean, millions and millions of characters that have the potential to just be non-characters, effectively droids, right? So what separates our army from the bad guys' army, effectively, if you're talking about it that way. And so I think it was a really cool. I love the character design of the clones to be like some of them get the tattoos or the different haircuts or things like that to differentiate them. The ways that they kind of seek out and develop their own individuality is very endearing. So I loved that, and obviously, Rex is my favorite clone for sure. You know, he's like Papa Bear to the other clones, and it's just like he's got a great relationship with Ahsoka. And I'm not saying what we texted about the other day. So I love Rex, especially some of the episodes with like I just finished the arc with Echo. You know, which feels. But
What did you think of the Umbara arc, the one with General Krell?
I don't remember that one. When was that?
The one where Carolyn's been off and on for like the last 2 years, guys. But the one where it's been
longer than that because when Matt was talking about when he started Clone Wars, I started Clone Wars before Matt, but Matt finished it before me.
Right,
So
that's right.
I think it's been more like a 4-year journey for me. So I know I shouldn't be admitting that on a Star Wars podcast, but like.
Look, it's fine. We kind of had a pandemic happen and then a lot of life stressors. So I'm not really going to blame you for that. But no, the Umbara arc episode, that's the one where Rex is with Anakin on the planet of Umbara. It's the dark planet where you can't see anything. And Anakin's called back to Coruscant by the Chancellor. And so he's replaced with the General Pong Krell. But Krell is actually like a terrible general that gets his men killed, and he doesn't really value like clones' lives. He just thinks that they're expendable.
I think I remember this one now.
And just type in here, I'll share. Clone Wars.
No, here, I'll look it up.
Yes, it's called Darkness on Umbara is the first of that 4-parter. I think it's a 4-parter.
Oh yeah, I remember this one now. This was I mean, it was a few seasons ago, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I love that episode because I think it did a great job of diving into the clones' humanity.
It does,
and especially.
Well,
go
because
ahead.
this isn't. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay.
The general's a Jedi, right? So this is also one of the first times I think that you're starting to see some like distrust of the Jedi from internally. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yeah. So he's like, I'm a Jedi, but I'm also like evil, and like the arc is way more complex than that. It's way more complex.
No,
than
I think that's it. I'm a Jedi, but I'm also like
evil. But that entire arc, I think, did a really good job of giving humanity, even more humanity to the clones, and like really dove into Rex as a character, especially because Rex is like, okay, do I defy this general and execute him essentially because he's doing things that aren't right? Or do I just blindly follow orders without questioning them?
Which again plays into later the whole following orders versus like maintaining their individuality and their humanity and whatnot. Oh my God, is stuff gonna happen with what? I don't know what I'm gonna do about what.
I'm so excited for you to watch the last
I just had the thought in my head after I said that because I was like, oh God, what's gonna happen to Rex? Like, no.
Oh my God, you might have to record some segments of your reaction because there are certain moments that I want to know how you react.
Okay. I mean, I'm scared now. I wasn't before, but now I'm like, okay.
No, it's good. It's really good. I promise, dude.
Okay.
They do tie in that overarching theme though into the finale, which is fantastic. But No, I was astounded when I first watched Clone Wars. It's just like how much development they gave the clones and how not expendable they made them and how they made you actually care. So every time a clone dies on that show, you feel something. Yeah. You're like, oh my God. And I also joke with my best friend. I'm like, hey, every time we watch Clone Wars, we should just take a shot every single time a clone dies.
Oh, no. I mean, yeah, but no. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good. I love the development of characters like that, and then valuable additions like Cad Bane, Bo-Katan. Surprised we haven't talked about this one, Ventress, because you sent me a lot of texts on Ventress when you first saw her.
Ventress is like my gal. I love her.
Yeah.
I want to do a Ventress cosplay.
Oh my God.
But I feel like that would be such a pain with my hair being. I mean, look at it right now. Everything that it is.
I mean, you could straighten it, like just force it back.
Do like a bald cap?
I mean, dude, I have more forehead for this.
That's true. Your forehead might make for a better Ventress forehead than mine. But
no, it would be manageable. But go ahead.
Oh no, I don't know. She's just like, I don't know. She's incredible. Her character design is flawless. Her outfits, flawless. Her attitude, flawless. Like, I'm surprised that a drag queen hasn't tried to do Ventress yet, to be honest.
Really?
Yes. I feel like that's something a drag queen would be very into doing. Just given her, she's got that like strong makeup. And anyway, tangent. Not doing a crossover episode.
That's a good point though. I mean, she does, like, her makeup's great. She's got that dark lipstick. She's got those fantastic eyelashes that go out.
Yes, you heard it here first, folks. Next season of Drag Race, there's going to be Ventress. I'm predicting it.
No, she was actually the original character who was going to be I think the main villain. I want to say Attack of the Clones, but it might have been Revenge of the Sith. She was created for the prequel trilogy.
I didn't know that. That would have been cool.
And then it was scrapped.
I also liked her arc in I liked the last, where she kind of teamed up with Ahsoka, but when Ahsoka got framed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
They do a lot of great parallels with Ventress and Ahsoka. Just drawing off of like both of their tragic backstories, and then when Ventress is having that argument with Anakin, she's like, she and I are really similar and you don't see it. Then Anakin gets super pissed off and Force chokes her. Yeah. Yet another violent scene in the show.
Yeah. Again, it's not. There's a lot going on there.
So, going into Kenobi, going into the show, do you think that Clone Wars has adequately prepared you for that? Especially because there are a lot of Kenobi-centric episodes in Clone Wars. In fact, I would personally argue that they really give him the all-star treatment in Clone Wars, where they're like, they make Obi-Wan look really good as a character.
Yeah.
So do you feel like it's...
I don't know if first of all, I don't know if anything can truly prepare me for Obi-Wan. Let's make that very clear. I feel like I'm going into it with the most complete picture. I'm so glad that I'm going to be finishing this prior to the start of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Just because I don't feel like otherwise I would have had the full picture. Like I said, there's so much richness to his character that you just don't get in the prequels. I mean, you get snippets of it here and there, but the Clone Wars really, like Matt was talking about earlier, fills in the gaps and makes it enriches it and makes it much more of a complete experience. So I think that it's going to have the same effect on Obi-Wan again, especially seeing that like official watch list of things. I'm like, ooh. So yeah, I'm definitely. I feel like I'm coming into it as prepared as I possibly can be, but it's going to mess me up. I'm going to be.
See, the rumor that's going around right now, dude, is that there was an interview that actually came out with Hayden today, and the interviewer asked him, he said, Hayden, are there any scenes in Kenobi that will make fans lose their mind? And he takes a deep breath, and Hayden goes, yeah. He goes, yep. And then earlier in the interview, he was so sly about it, but earlier in the interview, they were joking about Obi-Wan's mullet. In Ewan and Hayden were in this interview. they were joking about just like how the mullet is like ridiculous, but it's endearing. And Hayden, I think that this was a slip up. Hayden goes, oh, I kind of have a mullet going on right now. And Ewan goes, oh, yeah, you kind of do. And Hayden goes, yeah, it's for Obi-Wan. And there's like a split second where Ewan goes, like starts like laughing. It's like really quick. But then Hayden goes on to say something, oh, like, I'm just doing it for the show or whatever. Like, oh, haha, like I'm making fun of it. But it looked like a slip up to me and that they just joked it off. And so I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm like, I don't think Hayden grew out his hair for no reason. So
No, I don't think that. I don't think so either. I've also like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Do you think we'll get any flashbacks of Satine? Which, by the way, I need to talk through Satine for a second. Did you know? Okay, have you seen Moulin Rouge?
oh yeah, oh my god, dude. And don't talk to me. I know. I know.
What are the odds? What are the odds? Okay, because they say it's not intentional. They say it's not intentional that his love interest was named Satine in both of them. But I got my
That's sus, dude.
people. Yes.
It's very sus because I thought the same
tragic
thing.
love story. Are you kidding me? And it's Ewan McGregor, both of them. And Satine, it's not like her name is Jessica. Like,
No, it's the exact same. I don't know. It could have played a part. I'm not sure. I think it could have, but Satine's also based off Kate
Blanchett, yeah.
Blanchett. Yeah, I can never say her last name.
Although I would be fine with Nicole Kidman as Satine in both roles. How cool would that be?
That would be fine by me. I don't know.
I'm being wishful thinking right now. I'm being totally wishful thinking that we're going to get a flashback, but
I don't know. It's hard to say because you have to be careful with how much you do in a show like that.
yeah.
And you have to like really carefully pick and choose like, okay, if we're going to focus on the bond.
Especially because there's so many people that haven't seen Clone Wars, and they're going to be like, who the hell is this?
Who is that? Yeah. So
Aren't the Jedi priests? They're basically priests. So who is this love interest? Tainting Obi-Wan. I don't know.
I mean, I did a video on this on our channel like a couple weeks ago about whether or not Satine would appear. I don't want to get my hopes up, and I highly doubt we'll see an actual appearance of her. If we do, that's great. I do think it's very likely we could get a reference, though. Because I think it's all but confirmed that we're getting flashbacks in this show, especially because, like I just said, like Hayden was growing his hair out. That is definitely for the show. Supposedly there have been leaks about Ahsoka making an appearance as a young Padawan.
Oh my God. I would die if there's a scene with the three of them. I would literally just, goodbye. I will lose my mind. I haven't even finished the show yet, and I'm like,
I mean, honestly, Carolyn, anything's possible. I don't want to write anything off the table because they pull things out of left field into these shows. Like, I did not think that there was any way that, like, Bo-Katan and Ahsoka would have a place in The Mandalorian, and yet there they were.
I know.
So I'm thinking, like, we could get Padme. They could have secretly hidden Natalie Portman on set. That is very likely. I mean, you can't trust anything that these actors say. I mean, Andrew Garfield, after his whole lying fiasco with No Way Home, I don't trust these actors. Like,
I didn't even think about Padme.
I know.
I did not even think about Padme. Oh my God! Thank God you're only putting these thoughts into my head like 3 days before they happen, because I would not be able to just like sit here and stew over this for weeks and weeks and weeks.
No, I know. Dude, I've been thinking about this since, like, they announced the show officially back in 2019. I've been like, oh my God, Ahsoka could be in it. Oh my God, Padme. Oh my God, Qui-Gon. Which, by the way, Qui-Gon absolutely has to be in the show as a voice projection or whatever, because they mention it in Revenge of the Sith. It has to be there. Like, you have to do it. Like,
yeah. Well, and if Liam Neeson's already come back for things like Clone Wars, then he'll be willing to do it.
He's completely game. He tried to throw us off the scent. He lied about not doing TV shows a couple weeks ago, and I was like, no one believes you, dude.
Did someone ask him, or did he just volunteer that?
Somebody asked him.
Oh, okay.
They go, will you have an appearance on the Obi-Wan Kenobi show? And he said something so stupid. It was like, no, I'm a snob when it comes to TV. And he had literally appeared in the season 3 premiere of like the UK show Dairy Girls the week before.
And he's been in Clone Wars. So, like, what are you
Yes!
trying to throw off? Liam,
Yes!
Liam, you slide dogware onto you.
Everyone's just like, sounds fake, but okay.
Okay.
I'm not in it. So I the potential for just Clone Wars flashbacks, Clone Wars inclusion of certain characters, I think is very possible and highly likely for the Kenobi series. Yes. But it's like I was saying earlier to you and Matt, I think a large majority of content right now is heavily involved with the Clone Wars era. And so I don't think it's worth writing anything off the board. I think anybody could appear at any time. I mean, people are saying Captain Rex could show up in Kenobi.
Is this going to be serialized just like Mando?
The Kenobi series?
Yeah.
It's
Or is it all going to drop at once and I'm just not going to sleep on Wednesday night?
It's weekly. It's okay. Weekly. So we get the first 2 episodes this Friday.
Oh, I thought it was earlier for some reason, but no, Friday's good.
Thursday at midnight.
Okay. No, I'm not staying up for that.
And they're supposedly going to be 2 hours each. So the entire show will be 6 hours.
Wait. So they're 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours. That's it? 3 episodes?
No, okay, so we're getting the first 2 episodes this Friday. I don't know why they're giving us the first 2, but I'm not complaining. Supposedly, that Disney has never confirmed this, but I think someone said to me today that Ewan said that they are going to be an hour each, and there's only going to be 6 episodes in this show.
I thought you said they were going to be 2 hours each, and I was like, so 2 movies?
No. Oh my god, I don't know if I could emotionally handle 2 hours of just Kenobi torture. So,
oh my God.
No,
I mean, I could. I would probably be just like a shaking, crying mess by the end of it, but it would be fine. Okay, so that makes a lot more sense. So it's like a movie the first night, 2 hours, and then it's an hour for 4 more episodes.
Yes, and then the whole show will supposedly be 6 hours. They have not confirmed a runtime, but apparently Ewan said that they were like an hour. So it's like a 6-hour Kenobi movie, dude. And it could literally just be him crying and dragging his feet across the desert, and everyone would still be freaking out.
I'm so ready for it. I'm so ready for it.
So before we close out the show, Carolyn,
yes.
Do you have any final thoughts on Clone Wars or how it's changed your opinion of Star Wars as a whole? Or
oh my gosh, I'm so ready to see the last 4 episodes. I think we touched on a lot of it earlier. It's just it's a nice way to tie it all together, puts a bow on all of it, fills in a lot of the gaps, really enriches the experience so far. And we get to see that Jar Jar Binks has a sex life, which is beautiful.
Jar Jar Binks, plot twist. No, you know how the narrator opens, goes, "War on Tatooine," and, like the old announcer kind of voice. Jar Jar gets laid. After secretly having a love interest for the last 15 years, fans are astounded to discover that, yes, Jar Jar Binks has had sex.
Does there any fan fiction of them?
Oh, I've never looked up if there's Jar Jar and Julia fanfic.
And I will never look. I don't. You gotta ask. You gotta wonder.
There's fanfic for everything out there.
Hey, listeners or watchers or viewers, whatever. If you've ever written or read any Jar Jar and Julia fanfic, drop it in the comments below.
Oh God. I don't. Ew.
You're welcome.
I don't want to think about that.
That's about it, and I'm excited. I'm so excited to come back for part 2. Excited to finally be on the podcast. I hope I did okay.
You did great. Everyone, drop a comment. Let us know how great Carolyn is, and share your thoughts about Clone Wars with her. We are always willing to discuss more Clone Wars. It's personally my favorite piece of Star Wars media. So drop any and all comments about the Clone Wars.
Not any and all. Don't spoil the last 4 episodes.
Don't spoil the last 4 episodes for Carolyn, but drop an emoji with your reaction to the last 4 episodes to give Carolyn some cryptic anxiety before the end draws near.
Yeah, I like that. And the Jar Jar fanfic.
And the Jar Jar fanfic. That is necessary. I will not click any of it, but it is necessary to answer Carolyn's questions about the dark side.
I mean, I just need to know that it exists. I don't actually want to read it.
It's like Simba and Mufasa sitting on like the Pride Rock, and he's like,
Oh,
"What's that shadowy place?" That's Jar Jar and Julia fan fiction, son. You must never go there.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest impact that Clone Wars has had on me so far. Can't wait for the last 4 episodes. Can't wait for part 2. Thank you for having me on. This was so much fun.
Yeah, it was. It was a blast. Always good to bring more siblings onto the show. Once again, guys, we have 9 of them, so we have got to find ways to get each and every sibling's opinion on this show. So it is a good time. And we will have Carolyn on again for part 2. Okay, guys, before we get going, I would just like to remind you to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Drop a comment with a cryptic emoji of what you think of the final 4 episodes of Clone Wars to give Carolyn some anxiety before she goes into it. Do not forget to...
No, wait, I'm going to
Ready?
do it. I'm going to do it. The last outro. So, okay, guys, before we go, I want to make sure that you can drop a comment below, leave a cryptic emoji letting me know what to think of the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars. Go to Star Wars at @star_wars_pod on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, and Spotify, Apple, Anchor, you name it, we're there.
Carolyn,
What I do.
that was amazing. And I should have you do that for every time because I always trip over my words and I can never create complete cohesive sentences. So Carolyn's going to outro the show every time. So maybe we'll just reuse that and we'll use that at the end of our show every single time.
Or don't. That's okay.
Yeah, thank you once again, Carolyn, for coming on the show. We will see you for part 2 later this week in the rush to finish Clone Wars before Kenobi airs, and you have more crying to do after you cry over the Clone Wars finale. So,
Can't wait.
we will see you guys later. Bye. May the Force be with you. Carolyn?
May the Force be with you.
See you guys.